the rim, bitches running they mouth, all they do is dance. She keep to the even, I show up the rim, mash up with the G when I go for the hit.
The video shows Herrera wearing what appears to be a white tank top and jean shorts, standing in front of a shop here near the Morris Avenue Soundview train station. Then from the bottom of your screen, you see the highlighted person in a hoodie run up on the victim, pull out a gun, and shoot him. And we did freeze the video right before those shots were fired.
That man had knocked out a teenage female rapper on camera one day earlier, and the friend standing right next to him walked off 3 seconds before the shooter got there. That is the story we are getting into today, but the reason you need to hear the other two first is that all 3 of these men were taken out by somebody who was already standing close to them. Now this is a rapper from Detroit explaining how he ran his ops out of a shopping mall and put the whole thing on the internet.
So after that, I ran into them at the mall and dropped their bags and get them running. You know what I'm saying? My little cousin caught one of them, beat one of their ass. I think it was Ken.
And this is a man in Chicago explaining how his own brother caught 3 shots at a vigil inside a house that the whole crew treated as safe ground.
Trigger ain't know that he's finna get hit with them 3 shots, because where he was at, that's his safe haven. Trick can go there anytime. I fucking love Trigger, so it hit different.
One of these men got shot at for years and outlived every single person who was hunting him. One of them lasted 24 hours after he swung on the wrong person, and one of them died in a room full of people who had known him since he was a kid, and nobody in that room has ever been arrested for it. But before we get any deeper, let's start with this story. This man's government name was James Williams, but everybody in Detroit knew him as Baby James, and he came up in the Herman Gardens projects on the west side, right where Joy Road meets Southfield. That section had its own slang, its own money and rules, and he could spot somebody from his area just by the way they talked.
You could tell with the slang, like if they say bum, like, what's up, bum? Yeah. Like, that's Joy Road slang, what's up, bum? Or you scud. Somebody say you scud, that's like, man, you tripping, like, or something like that. Like, you scud it, you bait, like, that's all Joy Road slang.
His parents split when he was 7, so his mother raised him on the west side while his father stayed over on 7 Mile. And every weekend, he was on the other side of town with his pops. That is how he ended up knowing people all over a city where most people stay in their own section. And that mattered later because when the shooting started, he had places to go. The music came from his stepfather, who was rapping in a group called World Players that was known enough to land a song on an Ice Cube project. And since his mother did hair for a living, the group used to perform at her hair shows. That is how a 9-year-old boy ended up in a studio in 1999 rapping over a beat made by a producer named Heleva, who is now one of the biggest names in Detroit music and who still treats him like family to this day.
So I was 9 years old. My first time ever going to the studio was with Heleva. Like, ever rapping, my first beat I ever rapped on was a Heleva beat. Like, I was 9, so that was like 1999. And what? Yeah, that's why, like, you know what I'm saying? He'll call me his nephew to this day.
By the time he was 13 or 14, he was burning CDs at the crib and selling them in the school hallway. And that is where the other side of his life started, because money in that neighborhood does not stay quiet. He got clothes, chains, wore them everywhere, and has said himself that the better his stuff got, the more people around him started looking at him sideways. Then came the part of his story that made his name because he got shot 3 separate times, 3 years apart, and lived through all of it.
Well, when I was 16, I got shot once. When I was 19, I got shot about 3 times on the side. I got grazed in my head right here. And then when I was 22, I got shot in the stomach in a club.
The first one caught him at 16 while he was on the block shooting dice. A car came through and everybody scattered, and he was the one who froze up for a second before he ran. He has said he believes it was connected to something that had happened the week before, but he would not put anybody's name in it. The second one came at 19, and that one was worse because he took 3 shots to his side and a graze across his head and still walked away from it. The third one is the one that changed his career, and it happened over a pair of glasses. He was in a club wearing white Cartier frames, the kind Detroit calls white buffs, and he has said that a clean white pair with no gray in them runs around $2,500.
I'm in a club, somebody tried to take my glasses and run off with them and shit. I grabbed them, then he turned around, shot me and shit.
He grabbed the glasses back while they were still in his hand, completely broken, and he kept them. And then he lay in a hospital bed with a surgeon telling him straight up that he probably wouldn't see 25 years old. Most people would go quiet after something like that, but he did the exact opposite and turned it into a record.
So after that, it was just like, I'm like, damn, like motherfuckers I was fucking with, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, damn, these motherfuckers hate my guts. I'm talking to my nigga Freaky, he like, man, he just hates your guts. Like,
that is where Hate My Guts came from, with Lil Ron on the beat and Helava engineering it. And he wrote the whole song in the studio and recorded it in the same session. Then, instead of shooting a normal video, he called his cameraman to the hospital and filmed himself in the bed with the tubes still running into his arm, so there was no acting and no set, because the wound was the video. It did over 100,000 views with no promotion at all, which for an independent Detroit artist in 2012 was serious movement. And the main upload has since passed 259,000 views. The clubs played it, the jails played it, and Lil Ron has said in his own interviews that this record is what put him on the map as a producer.
that was a Detroit classic, man. It's still a classic to this day. Like, everybody bang that shit. Like, that was like one of my first videos that did 100,000 views and shit, like by myself, like, you know what I'm saying, no promotion and shit like that.
So by 2015, he was not a superstar and never had a major deal, and he has admitted he never even had a manager. He believed this was the reason he never blew nationally. But in his city, he had something a record deal cannot buy, because he had been shot 3 times and never once been successfully robbed, and in the streets, that combination makes you untouchable in a way that has nothing to do with music. Around that time, he had started a crew called Streets Are Us, or SRU, with a group he named Fat Snoop, Freaky Skywalker, Jack, and V. They dropped about 4 group tapes together, and before the rap money came in, they were throwing 2 parties a week around Detroit and splitting close to $10,000 between them every week. He also started a clothing brand called Acting Bad, and he had one rule for who could be part of it.
So I started a whole new brand. This was more like family, like my cousins and shit like that. There wasn't really no outsider.
Now on the other side of this, you had HINIC, a group out of the Greenfield area of the West Side that presented itself to the public as a rap group. The face of it was a rapper named HINIC Pesh, and behind him were 2 brothers named Antoron and Austin Woods. Here's where it gets interesting, because when Baby James was asked about the beef directly, he said he didn't even know the man personally.
Well, he like Greenfield area. That's what the area he claimed or whatever like that. But I actually don't even know the guy. Like, you feel me? Like, I don't even know the nigga for real.
According to him, there had been some friction with people from that side years ago when they were all kids, but that had been squashed a long time ago. And then about 7 years later, a rapper popped out under the HINIC name and started aiming songs at SRU while they were the hottest crew in the city. The way he read it, somebody was using his name to get themselves noticed.
So like 7 years later, he pop out, a rapper claiming HINIC. He's taking shots at us because we on the rise at this time. We the hottest niggas in the city. Feel me? So he making diss songs. He making diss songs and shit to get himself known.
But the songs were never the real issue, because the real issue was jewelry. And he has been clear that the whole war started with a burglary, not a rap beef. His crib got broken into, and his chains got taken. Unlike most people in his position, he never once went on the internet to cry about it, so nobody outside his circle even knew it had happened.
It was actually over my jewelry. Like, my jewelry got stole, my accounts got broken into, my jewelry got stole, everything got stolen. And then I actually ran into the nigga that actually did it. But he already knew I had previous problems with him, you know what I'm saying? So when I ran into the nigga that actually did it, I ran his pockets.
About a year after that, the people he believed had robbed him started showing up on the internet in brand new jewelry, and according to him, they began making videos telling the world that they had taken his chains off his face. That is what actually set everything off, because it was never really about the chains. On the 24th of October, 2015, both crews ended up inside Fairlane Town Center in Dearborn on the same afternoon, and there was no plan and no ambush because it was pure bad luck for one side and pure opportunity for the other. According to the version that was later tested in federal court, the two groups crossed paths near the shops, words were exchanged, and it turned into a full brawl inside a mall full of families, with knives and poles being swung in public. Within a few seconds, the Woods brothers and their people broke and ran, and that one decision is what shaped everything that came after, because in that world, running is worse than losing. Baby James and two men who court records name is Carlton Green and Eric Green chased them from store to store through a packed shopping center while shoppers scattered and security started moving in. They caught Austin Woods, took him down, and beat him on the floor until mall security pulled them off him. In all that chaos, nobody was arrested that day, and everybody scattered. Now, there were two versions of what happened in that mall, and I am not going to pretend they match. The street version, the one that lives in Detroit lore and gets repeated in breakdown videos, says he pulled a gun, chased them with it in his hand, and let off shots inside the mall. The court version, built out of a 5-week trial with witness testimony, video, and text messages, describes a chase and a beatdown, and never establishes that he fired a weapon. Both versions agree completely on the part that mattered, which was the humiliation, and they only disagree on whether a gun came out. Baby James's own version of it years later was almost casual, and you can hear that he understood exactly what he had done to them.
It's footage of them in the mall running and shit when they saw me and shit. That's how everything got critical, you know what I'm saying, after that. Shootouts and all that type of shit got going after that, because they was embarrassed from running through the mall, so after that, shootouts every other day.
Bystanders had filmed the whole thing on their phones from multiple angles, and the footage went straight to Instagram along with memes. So within a day, the brothers were being photoshopped and captioned and reposted all over the city. A group that had sold itself as untouchable in that part of Detroit became the joke of the entire local rap scene. And that is the moment a fight turned into a federal case file, because the people who lost did not answer with a diss track. They answered in a group chat, and 5 years later, a jury read every message out loud. A few hours after the video started moving, an HNIC figure named James Eldridge messaged Antoine Woods, telling him to do something about the posts, and a cooperating witness later testified that do something meant shoot him. 2 days after that, in the group chat, Austin wrote that he wasn't posting anything because he was on a mission for real. Antoine wrote that there would be no more internet games and posted publicly that they do not converse, they demonstrate, followed by the word murder spelled backwards. They started watching Baby James first, and a witness later testified that the group was surveilling his spots with the intention of killing him, but he was moving too much to catch, so they went after the people around him instead. On the 6th of December 2015, he was hosting a party at the King of Diamonds strip club when Antwan Woods pointed a gun at his head and fired, and he missed. What followed was a shootout inside a packed venue where the only person who actually got hit was an innocent bystander who had nothing to do with any of it. A woman's car got shot up in the same incident, and that was the first attempt. After that, they shot up his mother's hair salon, which is the same trade she had used to raise him and the same kind of shop she had been working in since he was a child, and it got riddled with bullets in a drive-by. Then, on the 20th of December, right around midnight, a car pulled up outside his grandmother's house and opened fire into the home, with some accounts describing over 50 rounds going through the walls. There were 3 people inside that house at the time, and one of them was a child, and not a single one of them got hit, which is honestly the only luck anybody catches in this entire video. Antwan Woods later bragged that they had torn it up, and a neighbor who lived through that night described hearing the shooting, hitting the floor, and then said the line that every person in this story should have heard before any of it started, which was that you are going to reap what you sow. What's strange about this whole period is that baby James never went into hiding because he kept moving, recording, and living openly in a city where armed men were actively hunting him. It cost him, though, because he stopped throwing parties for a while, and that was a big part of his income. Then he ended up locked up himself for 6 months, and while he was inside, the other side started getting picked up too. What finally ended the war was not a truce or a shootout, but a man talking. A member of HNIC named Donovan Rhymes, known in the streets as Fetty, got arrested on something unrelated and started cooperating, and he laid out the whole structure of the group, the drug sales, the surveillance, and the plan to kill baby James. Once the government had somebody from inside explaining how the organization actually worked, the mall video and the memes and the group chat became exhibits. Baby James found out secondhand and from other people's mouths.
Yeah, of course. He was like one of the main dudes trying to say like I'm snitching and shit like that, but he did an interview, I guess, you know what I'm saying? I ain't listened to it though, but they said, like, people that saw it, they was like, yeah, he ain't saying you snitching, he's saying that his man snitching. HNIC Fetty, that's the nigga that's snitching, so.
The trial ran 5 weeks, and the government didn't charge it as a rap beef because they charged HNIC as a criminal enterprise moving drugs and using violence to protect its position, which is what turns a street case into a federal one. The mall video was central to that argument because prosecutors used it to show that the group had been publicly disrespected and had to answer with violence in order to keep its position. When the sentences came down in 2020, Antwan Woods got 384 months, which is 32 years, and Austin Woods 168 months, which is 14 years. In 2021, the appeals court upheld almost all of it, throwing out only one duplicated count against Antwan, and finding that the mall fight and the posts that came after it were enough for a jury to connect the shootings to protecting the group's name. A federal prosecutor summed the entire thing up in one sentence, saying the brothers had conspired to murder a rival who had embarrassed them on social media. In December 2019, with all of that behind him and every one of his ops locked up, baby James sat down for what he said was only the second interview of his whole life, and he talked about getting a manager for the first time and doing everything the right way going forward. Then he announced the title of his next album, and the title is the reason this story sits heavy.
It's gonna be Last One Standing. That's what I think the name is. That's kind of like the perfect name for it, I feel. Cause like, I'm like, you know what I'm saying, soul survivor, you know what I'm saying, only the strong survive. I'm like,
On the 2nd of December 2023, James Williams died at 33 years old, and nobody shot him. There was no drive-by, ambush, or ops involved because he had been in the hospital for a few days, and the cause was heart failure. The people who knew him kept pointing at the same thing in the threads that went up the next day, which is that he had been drinking heavy liquor and champagne since 2000, and the damage finally caught up with him. One person wrote that liquor is a hidden demon of this city, and another said that 33 was way too young. And here's the observation a Detroit commentator made afterwards that honestly explains this whole section, because street figures who get gunned down get documentaries and headlines and flowers, while the ones who die quietly get almost nothing. This man survived a documented federal plot to end his life, and his death got a couple of videos and a Reddit thread. So he beat everything that was aimed at him, and then lost to the thing that was already in his own hand. Now hold that thought, because we're going to New York, where a man did something on camera in front of the whole internet, and the internet decided what was supposed to happen to him.
So the red bitches running their mouth, what they do is dance. She keep to the E when I show up the red mask up with the G when I go for the hit.
Either War, like, probably the biggest projects in the Bronx right now.
It gotta be.
Probably, like, it's the second biggest in New York, because only projects bigger than Either War is
Queensbridge?
Queensbridge.
Mm-hmm.
This woman at the center of this story is Baby Threat, and the coverage has never been consistent about her age. Some outlets called her a teen rapper, and other accounts put her at 17 at the time of the incident. Nobody argues about is that she was young, from that block, and climbing. She didn't even set out to rap, because her first song was a joke that got out of hand when a group chat argument between her people and another set turned into somebody daring her to answer them her record.
I really was playing around at first. Like, my first ever song I made, we was dead playing around with we was cool with the 1300 niggas at a point in time, and they had made some song, they dissed one of the girls that was in our group chat. We like, we better make a song, diss these niggas that shit that went up on Facebook. We was Facebook famous for like a month straight off that song.
She stopped rapping after that one. Then she dropped another record. That one went up too, and that is when she decided to take it seriously. The track people usually point to as her real arrival is a record built around the letters BBL that reportedly passed 160,000 views and was loaded with shots at rivals. And after that came other releases like Eatin' It Up and GOMD. When somebody asked her what it feels like being one of the only women in a scene built almost entirely by young men, her answer was short, and it matters a lot for what comes later in this story.
So how do you feel about being like a girl in like the drill scene? Like,
I don't know, I feel like it's just regular shit, like, cause like, I've been on that before this whole drill.
before you started rapping.
Yeah, so it's just like, just rapping about regular shit. I be thinking about the ops, like when I be coming in our block and terrorizing y'all. That's what be going through my head. I have to make myself angry. Sometimes I be in there playing around, I be like, hold on, let me lock down real quick.
That is the lane she picked, and she knew what came with it, but she also talks about wanting more than the block and about treating the music like a real career instead of something to do for fun.
Like what I'm doing, I really want to do. I'm not just doing it to do it. If I'm seeing I'm going up with this shit, why would I not take it serious? I just want to be, feel me, at a better place than I am right now.
Her come-up was not clean either, and it would be dishonest to act like it was. There were allegations moving around her area, including a claim that she took $16,000 from somebody she was affiliated with, which reportedly got her pushed off the set she was running with, plus footage of her fighting another woman over territory. In the environment she was operating in, allegations like that make you enemies faster than any diss record ever could, so nobody is presenting her here as innocent. What matters is that nothing on that list explains what happened to her on the 6th of August, 2025. Now the other man in this, because his background matters just as much. Ralph Herrera was 33 years old and from Soundview, which is a completely different part of the Bronx. He rapped under the name Chicken Don Dada, spelled a few different ways depending on where you look. He worked at the Exotic World Smoke Shop on Westchester Avenue near Morrison Avenue, right under the elevated train line, and he was a father of 4. The picture people painted of him after he died was genuinely warm, because friends described a man who bought ice cream for kids in the neighborhood and helped people out and gave away whatever he had, and people at his vigil called him a good man and a good father. What they could not hide is the other half of it, because he had 27 prior arrests, including one for having an illegal gun. That number is going to matter later when we talk about who might have wanted him gone. His music never really left the Bronx, and his main credit is a 2021 video called Stolies, alongside an artist named Joe Gonz that talks about hustling and watching who you let get close to you. He was a serious Eminem fan, and at one point he traveled all the way out to California to link with Nipsey Hussle, which tells you he had real ambition and was not just playing rapper from his phone. So you have a 33-year-old man with a long record and a small local buzz on one side, and a teenage girl from a completely different part of the borough with a growing one on the other side, and there is no reason those two lives should have ever crossed. On the 6th of August 2025, they crossed anyway. A video surfaced showing the two of them arguing, and there is no clean audio or context inside the clip itself, so nobody watching it can honestly tell you what got said in the seconds before it went physical. What everybody can see is how it ended, because he punched her in the face and she went down unconscious. Some accounts describe him as walking up on her strangely in the moments before it happened, and she had to be helped afterwards. The footage moved the way footage moves now, hitting world star hip-hop, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube within hours, and the reaction split straight down a line that hip-hop has been arguing about for 30 years. One side said the culture has always had one rule, that men do not put hands on women, and that a grown man knocking out a teenage female rapper is indefensible, no matter what got said. The other side, quieter but all over the comments, argued that if a woman is throwing the same threats and the same disses and moving the same way the men move, then she has stepped into the same arena and cannot ask for protection out of it. That argument is still going on right now, and this case is a big part of why it got so loud. But while the internet was busy debating principles, somebody had already made a decision, and Ralph Herrera had less than a day left. On the 7th of August 2025, at around 10:30 at night, Ralph Herrera was standing outside the smoke shop where he worked on Westchester Avenue in Soundview, wearing a white tank top and jean shorts. He was not armed or hiding. He was standing on his own job, on his own block, doing absolutely nothing, with a friend standing right next to him. All of it was caught on camera, and the local news later obtained the surveillance footage and put it on air.
The video shows Herrera wearing what appears to be a white tank top and jean shorts, standing in front of a shop here near the Morris Avenue Soundview train station. Then from the bottom of your screen, you see the highlighted person in a hoodie run up on the victim, pull out a gun, and shoot him.
The police description says he was a young man in a black t-shirt with multicolored lettering, black pants, black and red trainers, with a black hoodie pulled tight around his face. He doesn't rush in wildly, doesn't say anything. He walks up straight, fires one time into the left side of Herrera's head from point-blank range, and then leaves down Westchester Avenue. Police recovered a single casing off the pavement. The shooter didn't panic or spray or need a second try. He came to do one thing and did it. Bystanders ran over to help him, and he was rushed to Jacobi Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead. The NYPD classified it as a targeted killing carried out execution style. That word targeted is doing a lot of work there because it means police didn't believe for a second that this was random. Now here's what turned a local Bronx shooting into something the whole internet was arguing about, and it comes down to the man standing beside him. In the seconds before the shot, that man looks in the direction the shooter is coming from, touches his own face, and then walks off casually. He didn't shout a warning, pull his friend, or run. People were breaking that footage back frame by frame within days, and posts openly accused the friend of signaling the shooter, while others said flat out that he knew exactly what was about to happen. In street language, they were calling it a back door, meaning the man got walked into it by somebody he trusted. But we have to be fair here, because police have never named that man as a suspect and have never publicly said anything at all about his behavior, and there are innocent explanations for every part of it. He might have been wiping his nose, might have been walking to a car, and might have seen nothing. Some of the people defending him have pointed to other footage where that same man faced down a threat with a bat rather than walking away from it, which doesn't fit the profile of somebody who sets up his own friend. Still, once you've watched it, you can't unwatch it, and the timing is why the theory refuses to die. Then there's the bigger question of why it happened at all, and the timeline is what makes everybody assume they already know. He knocked a teenage female rapper unconscious on camera on the 6th of August and was executed on the 7th, and nobody in the Bronx treated that as a coincidence. Theories moved fast, and one Reddit thread had people speculating that Herrera had knocked out somebody's girl and that this was the answer to it, while others claimed the shooter had been present at the earlier fight. None of that has ever been proven, and the NYPD has never publicly confirmed any motive or officially connected the two incidents. It's also worth remembering that a man with 27 prior arrests has more than one enemy, so the retaliation theory is the obvious one, but it's not the only one, and nothing unrelated to baby threat has ever been ruled out. On the 20th of August, 13 days after the shooting, the NYPD released clear photographs of the suspect and later expanded that to images of two men they wanted to talk to. The pictures were unusually good because you can see the man's face clearly.
These are the photos that police have released. As you can see, they're very clear, and you can see the suspect's face. Police believe he is responsible for shooting 33-year-old Ralph Herrera to death here on Westchester Avenue earlier this month.
With all of that, based on the latest available reporting, no arrests have been made in this case.
Just a few weeks later, there are still candles lit outside where that shooting happened. They're still lit in honor of Herrera's memory here, but police are asking if anybody has any information on who we just showed you or any information on what happened here to call Crime Stoppers.
There were dozens of candles outside a smoke shop, with friends standing around calling him a good man and a good father, and meaning every word of it, while the video of him knocking a teenage girl unconscious was still going around on those same phones. Both of those things were true at the same time, and that's exactly why this case was so hard for people to talk about honestly. Baby Threat never posted about it, never gave a statement, and never did an interview on it, because her social media went right back to music previews and posts about staying down, including a line about having been through it all and still coming out on top. She kept dropping records, and when you go back and listen to what she said about her goals long before any of this happened, it reads completely differently now.
I don't got no manners. Now let me stop.
You heard what he said? He said most of us act like niggas anyway.
Alright, what was that? 14?
Just trying to make it out. Regular her shit.
And what does making it out to you mean?
just going
Look
up.
at me.
I'm happy, just going up. Make sure I'm happy, money in my pocket, my shit.
The last story is different from the first two because there were no ops involved anywhere in it, but his own people.
There's niggas up north is bitches.
When you say that?
On my daily butterfly, they bitches folk. On my daily butterfly, cause look, all these niggas folk that be portraying that image folk, I done jumped they gate and beat them on my daily butterfly like real life, like.
Trigger ain't know that he's finna get hit with them 3 shots.
His government name was Khalil Quincy Austin, born on the 31st of December 1996 in Chicago, and the drill scene knew him as FYB Trigger. The FYB collective was started around 2011 by a man called FYB J. Main, who most accounts describe as his brother, and the crew was tied to the South Side and connected to a set called BBG. The set took its name from a young man killed in 2011 who wasn't even gang affiliated.
Here is the first thing you need to know about Trigger, and it is unusual for the kind of story that normally ends up on this channel, because he was not really out here trying to be a rapper. He put music out and dropped an album in 2022 called Free Smoke Volume 2 with records like Choppa Scream and No Love. He showed up in videos, but the numbers tell the whole story because he was sitting under 500 monthly listeners on Spotify. That is not a career, that is a hobby. And what he actually had was a street reputation that he built loudly and on purpose. In a 2021 interview, he went on record laying out what he had personally done to rivals from a group called PBG, including the late Young Pappy and Pappy's brother Tay Savage. And he did not hint at any of it because he listed it out like a receipt.
On my daily butterfly, cause look, all these niggas folk that be portraying that image folk, I done jumped they gate and beat them on my daily butterfly like real life, like. Pappy, Tavion, on my daily brother, took they pipe, beat Tavion with a 4-nick on my daily brother, beat his ass with the nick, bow, bow, jump Pappy gate for like $350 in a pipe. These niggas is hoes, and they never got their get back.
He claimed he robbed them for a gun and $350, jumped a gate to get at one of them, and pistol whipped the other one with his own weapon. Then he told a second story about running into Tay Savage inside a jail pod and walking over to him while he was lying on his bunk with the covers pulled partly over his head.
I would walk over to him. What's up, shorty, remember me? On baby, just like that, on Archie Gray. What's up, shorty, remember me? Yeah, I ain't no shit without the bam. I mean, you ain't no shit. Nah, I ain't no shit. I'm cool. I'm all right back. I get right back on the phone. I folks say he ain't no shit. Fuck great.
None of those claims are verified because they come from him. They are one-sided, and the people he named were either dead or not there to answer, and associates who got asks about them later said they could not confirm any of it, even though one of them acknowledged knowing about a separate incident involving Pappy's brother. Even a commentator who had lived in that same area for years pushed back on him for using personal beef with 2 or 3 individuals to write off a whole section of the city.
For the fact of him getting on here discrediting everything the Young Pappy did, that's some personal beef that he has going on with them. So if he feels they not like that, then who am I to say he's lying? But who am I to also say up north can't get wild? Because up north it gets wild. It's just not known for that. Like I'm up north right now, just clocking off my job, and up north looks sweet. Up north looks sweet. Right now, it's not nothing it used to be in 2012 to 2015. Uptown, Rogers Park, West Rogers Park, Howard Street, them people get wild, man.
But whether those stories were true almost doesn't matter, because they told everybody one specific thing about him, and that one thing is what killed him. Trigger took people's guns, and not from enemies, because he took them from his own friends, and it was a known habit that people joked about and warned each other about. In street language, it's called taking pipes, and his own brother has said it plainly on camera.
But Trigger known for trying to take pipes though. That's why I gotta do y'all homework. Trigger known for taking pipes. It's all folks rap about, for all folks talk about taking pipes. Been knowing Trigger for years, and he always been taking pipes my whole life. But I always told him, folks, slow down, woo, but you can't tell no nigga like, yeah, woo, but it ain't like I'm trying to jinx a motherfucker, so I ain't over tell him, you know, like, yeah, don't be taking pipes, your ass gonna get killed doing that shit. You know, I never told him that shit.
There's a story that shows this better than any explanation could, and it comes from FBG Butta, who has publicly identified himself as Trigga's blood brother. A group of them were at a house early one morning, around 8 in the morning, and one of the guys there was carrying. Before Trigga even pulled up, the others had already pulled that man to the side and warned him.
But yeah, motherfucker tell him like, don't pull your pipe out. Let me remind y'all, motherfucker, I already told him like, don't Trigga come around, shorty, keep your pipe put up, folks. You feel me? I don't know what shorty thought it was a game or something. I don't know what he thought. Now my daddy says, like, let me remind, it's like 8 in the morning.
He ignored the warning, and when Trigga got there, the man went to the back of the house and came back out with the gun in his hand, and it was over before he understood what was happening to him. Trigga asked to see it. The man handed it over, and then Trigga checked how many rounds it held, which was 21, asked whether there was one in the chamber, chambered a round himself, and told the man to get back before he shot him. According to Butta, he actually let off shots at him with his own gun while the man was begging to get it back. Butta's take on it afterwards was not sympathy, because it was closer to saying the man asked for it.
But then at the same time, I did because the motherfucker warned you, cool. Motherfucker told you, hey, bro, don't pull your pipe out around shorty. And he pulled this pipe out around shorty, folks. So it's like basically you asked to get your shit took on folks' grave.
Now sit with what a habit like that does to a room over 10 years, because every single person around him is walking in already knowing that the man they call brother might take their weapon at any moment, in front of everybody, for no reason at all, and there's nothing they can do about it without starting a war inside their own crew. So they started carrying a second gun just in case. And that's not speculation, because that's exactly what Jay Main described later on when he explained why people around Trigga kept backups. There was another night that shows the same pattern with somebody who was ready for him when Trigga was fresh home from jail and somebody brought a rapper named Flame up to his hotel room while he was sleeping.
It was an incident where Trigga was fresh home and Trigga wanted to rap. Flame wanted to rap, and I'm like, fuck it. I had tell Flame like, don't get Trigga your gun. But Trigga ended up taking his gun to the studio. Let me fast forward the story. Trigga downtown, Quan, he ended up bringing Flame to Trigga Hotel while Trigga and that bitch sleep. Trigga like, Quan on his way upstairs. Quan, I'm on their way upstairs, you feel me? But so as Trigga getting up, Flame and Quan walking through the door. Trigga pipe, Flame pipe. You know what I'm saying? Flame like, man, y'all, I don't even know why y'all brought me here. Y'all should have told me, dude, was Trigga at the time. He had like 3-4 in the room.
Both men pulled out on each other in a hotel room that night, and nobody died. And that's the only reason we're talking about a different incident today. There's one more detail about his life worth knowing, because multiple accounts inside the drill community say his mother worked as a defense attorney in Chicago and helped him with his legal problems, though nobody has ever confirmed that in public records, and searches for it turn up nothing, so treat it as a rumor that people close to him kept repeating. Memorial Day weekend in 2022 was the worst Chicago had seen since 2007, with 51 shootings and 9 deaths across the city in a few days, and 2 of those 9 were FYB. The first one came on the 28th of May, when a member called FYB DJ was killed in a shootout in the Englewood area over territory, and the man he was exchanging fire with, Derek Washington, died as well, with Jay Main describing DJ's part in it as self-defense. Both men were pronounced dead at the same hospital, and 2 days later, on the 30th of May, the crew came together to mourn him.
The gathering was at a house on East 93rd Street that had belonged to another FYB member who was already gone, a man they called Archie. and it was not a party because it was a vigil for DJ. That address carried a specific meaning inside the group, which is exactly why nobody in there was on guard.
Trigger ain't know that he's finna get hit with them 3 shots. Because where he was at, that's his safe haven. Trigger can go there anytime. Motherfucker love Trigger. So it hit different.
Trigger pulled up with a few people, including members named Monty, Thad, and Benji, plus one more man, an older FYB member who had not been active with the crew in a while. Trigger was also impaired that night since accounts describe him as being on pills and lean, and posted the location on his Instagram story, panning around the spot and showing people armed. This is the reason the first headlines about his death claimed that a rival had tracked him through social media. Those headlines were completely wrong because nobody drove past that house and no rival showed up and no ops came through. Everything that happened that night happened between people who had known each other for 10 or 20 years, standing inside a house belonging to a dead friend at a vigil for another dead friend. Something got said in there, and according to the accounts that came out afterwards, Trigger believed the older member had either told on somebody in the crew or had been messaging his girlfriend, though neither one has ever been confirmed, and both are described as rumor, including a version where Trigger called another FYB member a snitch to his face at the gathering. Whatever it was, Trigger did the exact same thing he had been doing for a decade, because he took the older man's gun off him and pointed it at him.
You just tried to take a gun from a motherfucker, and now they saying you pointed it at a motherfucker. So once you point this gun at a motherfucker, that motherfucker shoot you 3 times.
The older man was carrying a second gun that Trigger did not know about, and that is the detail the whole night turns on.
Because what I know Trigger ain't know he had that other gun on him. He had another gun on him. Up that gun, hit Trigger 3 times. That's how that shit played out, bro. He upped that other gun, hit Trigger 3 times.
He hit him 3 times, in the chest, the side, and the groin, and that placement is why nobody in Chicago fully accepts that this was purely a defensive reaction. His own brother, who has every reason in the world to want a simple explanation for this, said it out loud himself and did not soften it at all.
And then somebody else say, all right, but why you shoot him 3 times for? If this supposed to be one of the guys, you ain't gonna hit him like that. You gonna probably hit him in his leg, like, man, you tweaking if anything. If you shot a nigga 3 times in the upper body, you wanted him dead. That's what motherfuckers saying.
Then it got worse, because Trigger was hit 3 times and still on his feet, and he ran out of that house firing, and in all that panic, high and wounded and convinced that he had just been set up, he did not hit the man who shot him one single time. He hit his own people instead, with Benji taking a round to the chest and Monty and Thad both getting hit, which means 3 FYB members got shot by FYB Trigger inside a house full of FYB members at a vigil for a dead FYB member. His brother's read on why he fired on his own crew is probably the most human thing anybody said about this whole situation.
At this point, I'm understanding once Trigger shot, he like, fuck it, shit, y'all trying to set me up in this bitch. It feel like a backdoor shit. Motherfucker just shot me. But at the same time, if you wouldn't have tried to take this man's gun and pointed it at him, because what I know Trigger ain't know he had that other gun on.
He thought the whole room had turned on him, and whether that was true or not, in that moment he believed everybody standing in that house was in on it.
So long story short, from what I understand, Trigger got shot in his chest, in his side, and in his groin, bro. it hit different, bro. His girl take him all the way to the hospital, bro. But it's really on what really happened in that crib, bro.
He died there at 25 years old, and all 3 of the men he shot survived because Benji arrived in critical condition with a chest wound and was released within days, while Monty and Thad also recovered, though Monty was reported to be dealing with legal problems afterwards. Now here's where this case separates itself from the first 2, because there was no investigation that went anywhere, and no trial, and nobody was ever arrested. Everybody in that house claimed self-defense in the chaos, and when you have a room full of people who have known each other for 20 years, there is nothing for prosecutors to build a case on, so the whole thing closed without a single charge. There is also a detail that makes it sit even heavier, because FYB Trigga died at the same address where the friend they were mourning that whole weekend had also died, and that is one of the first things the Chicago forums latched onto. His brother has spent years since then trying to shut down the versions of the story people made up online.
Y'all on this bitch just talking. Here y'all go with this just extra shit, gang. Y'all niggas don't even be knowing what they talking about. Alright, some of this story, that story, bro. Y'all not FYB, y'all don't know what's really going on with us, so all that extra shit that y'all doing on y'all pages, bro, stop that, man. Y'all creating false ass scenarios and shit, making shit up.
And in the middle of all that frustration, he said the thing that ties all 3 of these stories together, and he said it about the group he started himself.
You gave this man a reason. If I already know one of the guys don't like me, you probably should be on your P's and Q's with this nigga. If you feel like this is some type of animosity and you calling this nigga one of your guys. But at the end of the day, niggas don't really fuck with each other like that, and that's really what the shit really about. Niggas don't really fuck with each other how y'all be thinking motherfuckers be fucking with each other. That shit be a facade is how I'm looking at that shit for the internet or something. Yeah, niggas got the same 3 letters in front of their name, but at the same time, niggas don't be together for real, because if they was, none of that shit would have just played out, bro. That's how I'm looking at that shit.
It did not even end there, because in December 2024, more than 2 years later, an FYB affiliate called Lil Mike was asked about a song by a rapper named Flame that seemed to accuse the crew itself of being behind Trigga's death.
Another thing he said in a song, he said something like FYB was mad, speaking on Trigga. He said they the ones that blanked him.
Lil Mike did not brush it off because he thought that was probably what happened, before admitting right after that he didn't actually know. He pointed at old friction that never got resolved and the fact that Trigga had been aiming songs at FYB members himself and spoken publicly on people who were already gone, which nobody in the crew appreciated. So years later, the men who were closest to him still cannot agree on whether the man who shot him was acting alone. Now, the reason so many people got this story wrong at the start is that it fit a pattern everybody had already seen, and there's one case that lines up with it almost exactly. About 3 months after Trigga died, P&B Rock was shot and killed while eating at a restaurant in South Los Angeles, and within hours the entire internet had decided that his girlfriend's Instagram post tagging the location was what got him killed.
At about 1:15 p.m., Southeast Patrol officers responded to the 100 block of Manchester Avenue for a robbery that just occurred. When they arrived, they found a male suffering gunshot wounds, and that male was then transported to the hospital. What occurred was the victim, along with a female witness, were in this area eating at a restaurant when they were approached by at least one suspect who brandished a firearm and demanded property from the victim. The suspect then shot the victim multiple times and remove property, and then left the location in a getaway car. The getaway car fled in an unknown direction. We don't know where the vehicle went. Officers then were able to close down the scene until we could find out what the status of the victim is. I'm sorry to say that the victim has been pronounced deceased at 13:59 hours today. South Bureau Homicide is working this case, as are many other detectives. The victim was sitting at a table eating with a female witness when he was approached by the suspect. The suspect then brandished a firearm and demanded his property. We don't have the audio as to what the exact verbal exchange was at that time. The suspect then fired multiple rounds and then appears to remove some property. To what extent, we don't know at this time.
Even the police chief pointed at the post early on, and it turned into a whole cultural conversation about rappers sharing their location, the same way people blamed Trigga's Instagram story for his death in Chicago. Then the trials happened, and the actual evidence came out, and it was not the post at all. Prosecutors established that a man named Tremont Jones had tipped off Freddie Lee Trone about the rapper being there and about jewelry worth over $500,000, and that Trone then armed and directed his own 17-year-old son to carry out the robbery. In August 2024, a jury convicted Trone of first-degree murder along with robbery and conspiracy counts, and the following month he was sentenced to 31 years to life, while Jones got 12 years for robbery and conspiracy, and the teenager who actually pulled the trigger was found not competent to stand trial.
Details on the man convicted of killing rapper P&B Rock. He was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison today in an LA courtroom. 42-year-old Freddie Trone convicted last month after prosecutors say he directed his 17-year-old son to shoot and kill the rapper during a 2022 robbery at a South LA Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles. Co-defendant Tremont Jones, who was not charged with the murder, was sentenced to 12 years in prison.
So in both cases, the public blamed the phone, and in both cases, the truth was that somebody who already knew where you were and who you were is the one who set it in motion. That's the same shape as the friend who walked away 3 seconds early, and it's the same shape as a man being handed a gun by somebody carrying a second one. Let me put all three of them next to each other one last time so you can see it clean. Baby James actually won his war because he humiliated the people who came for him so badly that the federal government put them away for a combined 46 years, and he walked away from 3 shootings and a documented plot to end his life. Then the bottle finished what none of them could finish, and he died at 33 with barely any coverage because the culture only hands out flowers to people who go out violently. Ralph Herrera swung one time at a teenage girl in front of a camera in a world where everything is a camera, and 24 hours later, he was dead on his own block with the man beside him walking off 3 seconds early, and there are still no arrests, 4 kids without a father, and a comment section arguing about whether he had it coming. And Khalil Austin spent 10 years taking guns off the people closest to him in front of witnesses because nobody in his circle was ever willing to be the one to make him stop. And then he did it one time too many in a house belonging to a dead friend at a vigil for another dead friend, and shot 3 of his own men on his way out the door. 3 men, 3 completely different endings, and in every single one of them, the person who did the real damage was never the ops, because it was somebody who was already standing in the room.
Every day, cause I be on my grind. Pocket full of blues, leave a bitch colorblind. See my old girlfriends, damn she hella fine. Got 3 kids, but ain't none of them bitches mine. BJ drive racks, why these niggas drop dimes? Bitch face Rolex, so a bitch can't waste my time. Wishy-washy niggas, I don't fuck with them kind. All my niggas trapped up.
My big brother. On my daughter, we out here for my big brother. We ain't trying to talk. So great. We gonna get it right. We gonna walk a nigga down straight.
Bronx, my nigga. I'm trying to get a fucking V right now, nigga. Y'all niggas know what I'm on. I don't know what the fuck on. Nah, y'all niggas just take this.
Drop a comment and tell me which one of these three you think was the most avoidable, because I already have my answer, and I don't think it's the one most people are about to pick.